It is 7:02, so I'm actually going to open the September 9th meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. First item up is attendance roll call. So Peter.
Here.
Frank.
Present.
Ken.
Here.
Savannah. Oh, I see Savannah, you're muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
Present.
Teresa?
I don't see her.
And Jimmy, I do not see yet either. So we'll get going. First up is the approval of minutes from August 12th. Any questions or comments? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Peter? Savannah?
Yes.
Need to abstain.
Okay. Ken?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
And I also approve those minutes. All right, next up, we have Lowell Street. Request for determination of applicability for the construction of 395 square feet of sidewalk, including a 10x8 landing area, new curbing and buffered at BVW. It's a bus stop project. Is the
Hi.
applicant here?
Yes, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Tess Paganelli with the MBTA. And I have with me also Natasha Vance, who is the MBTA project manager, and she can give you a little bit more detail on the project, as well as Angela Saunders, who is our consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks, Tess. I'm Natasha Vance. I'm the transit project manager for the PATI project. PATI stands for the Plan for Accessible Transit Infrastructure, which essentially means the MBTA is looking system-wide to upgrade bus stops to make them ADA compliant, fully accessible and safe. And this project before you is one of those bus stops. And I will turn it over to Angela for the details on this site. Thanks.
Yep. Can I share my screen? I have a PowerPoint
Yes.
prepared.
Yeah, you should be able to go ahead.
There it is. It says it's disabled.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Let me just interrupt quickly. Bob, Teresa is trying to join the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. As Natasha stated, this is the MBTA bus stop accessibility and safety improvement project. And she quickly went over this, but the point behind this project is to improve bus stops. And we have stop on Low Street, opposite of Pleasant Street. It's going to require construction of new sidewalk, new crosswalk to be installed, and new curb ramps. So to kind of give you an idea of where it's at with respect to everything else, this is a locust map to kind of show you the wetland that we're near, which is right here, and it comes down into that property. This is our plan. This is a 30% level design plan. The project consists, so this is the swamp. This swamp that we're showing is based on GIS. We did not go out and flag the swamp. And then this buffer is based on 100 feet off of that. The work, in essence, is to build a new curb ramp, a level landing area that is compliant to be ADA accessible, and a level clear zone. So this is about 200 between this and this curb ramp. I think we stated it was 200 and something square feet. We are increasing impervious surface in here because if you can tell, there is no existing sidewalk over here. But this current is not accessible. A wheelchair would not be able to get inside the bus at this current bus stop. And to we kind of colored up a plan to help you see it a little bit better, right? The green lines are limit of work, which is in essence also our sediment control barrier, which is likely to be silt socks. And then the beige is our new sidewalk. And then we highlighted the 100-foot wetland buffer. So you can see we're within the 100-foot buffer. And that's the next thing is schedule. Our game plan is to put this into construction in 2022. There is no bid process because MBTA already has an on-call contractor, and we anticipate construction to be complete at each stop in about 1 to 2 weeks. Is there any questions?
Could you go back to the, yeah, exactly. Thank you. So there's a curb cut on the opposite side of the street.
Over here, this is another curb ramp.
Right. Okay. And did you say there's no sidewalk on that side where the proposed stop is going to go?
Well, the stop's already there. It's an existing stop. We are not moving the stop. We are just improving the stop to meet accessible standards. But the stop over here, there is no sidewalk. Over here, there is existing sidewalk,
Right. Okay.
but right here, there is not.
Excess material, do you think you'll be generating during the conversion,
How much excess material?
if any? Do you think any will be generated?
If they do, the contractor is responsible for disposal of anything so they're gonna have to dig down to be able to provide a base to the sidewalk. So they'll end up digging down 2 feet, I'd say. I think that's what we're assuming when we look at impacts. So that excess material, they have an item in their contract for removal of that excess material.
Would they be storing that material at the location of the repairs, or would they be putting that directly into dump trucks?
I'm gonna let Natasha answer that. She might know a little bit more based on what they've done on other projects.
Yeah, I think in this instance, they would just put it directly into a truck and cart it off, and we could certainly make that a condition at this location.
Yeah, I think that would work. Obviously, you want to
Mhm.
avoid keeping, unstable stockpiles there and having it rain and wash into the.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions or concerns? Elaine, do you have any questions or concerns?
No,
Did I see Rebecca join?
Yep.
Ah,
Hi.
anything from you, Rebecca?
No, I just looked at the Google Maps that you could do the street view. And it just looks like it's a little area before you get to the tree line that's typical of adjacent to roadways that they would probably just clean out and then put the whatever materials in they needed. I don't really have any concerns.
I mean, my thought is would be a negative determination, providing we do have the erosion and sediment controls that they have indicated they'll place there. And of course, no stockpiling. Any other thoughts?
I tend to agree. If I can, I'd make a motion to issue a negative determination.
I concur.
Okay. Let's see, all in favor. Ken?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Savannah?
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Teresa, did you join us?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Okay. Jimmy, you there? No. I also vote yes. We'll issue a negative determination of applicability for this project. Rebecca or Elaine, do you have any other comments or concerns?
No. I do not.
I do not either.
Okay. All right, I guess we're all set then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right, bye-bye.
Our next public hearing is not till 7:30. I've got 7:13 right now. We do have some time for some old business. Jimmy, I see you've joined.
Bob, do you want to announce the two that are continued?
Oh, all right. So I didn't even notice that. All right, so at 8 o'clock, we have Lake Street, DEP 313607 has been continued, as has 237 Water Street, that's DEP 313602. Both of those have been continued. And for the record, we do have Teresa and Jimmy have joined us. Is there a preference, either Rebecca or Elaine, as to which of the old new business items you'd like to look at?
No, I don't have a preference.
Trying to see which one's the easiest.
Harrison Ave?
Let me see. Whatever.
Questions are easy, right?
So 67 Harrison Ave, DEP 313596 is a request for an extension.
I think that should be a certificate of compliance. It was only, the order was issued last year.
So it expires in 2 years?
3, I think it's supposed to say certificate of compliance request.
Oh, okay. The
The
typo.
project is done or is never
They were-
started.
They're waiting for an as-built. I don't know if the as-built has come in yet.
Oh my God, I'm still looking for it.
I remember they were doing some grading on the lot and I don't remember what else.
It was, they put down a grass matting down the hill. That was pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah. While Rebecca's looking for that, Elaine, I see Patriot Circle on here, request for an extension.
Yeah, that one, he has an extension due to COVID, but he wants to have a written extension for the record. So it's in the files. So if somebody comes back 5 years from now and doesn't do the calculations for COVID, it's still in the file as a paper record. So basically what he wants to do is he wants to reduce the COVID extension in writing with a written document.
When would his certificate, when would his order expire?
Sometime in 2022. I don't have the file with me. I looked at it this afternoon. It's 2022. So what he wants to do is he wants to take the COVID date and extend it as a written document.
To the regular date of 2022.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
it is in the file, I would put that into the extension permit before I sent it around.
Well, I'm confused, Elaine. So
Yep.
the permit would say, what date would the permit say? The extension,
The permit,
the extension. So what,
the extension permit would give the same date as the COVID extension would give.
and what date is that?
It is some date in 2022.
Oh, okay, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what you just said. I'm sorry.
The
Elaine.
exact date, yep.
Thank you.
I would put that on the document.
So just looking for that in writing.
Exactly.
Okay, it doesn't seem to be an issue with that. It's kind of unusual, but.
I think he just would feel more secure if he had the piece of paper in his hand.
Right.
Don't blame him.
Yeah, anybody have any questions or concerns with that?
No.
Okay, we'll take a vote to, I mean, technically we don't probably need to, but we'll do it anyways. To give a written extension for Patriot Circle. Frank,
Just for the heck.
would you like to make a motion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Was there a motion? I guess not. I'll make a motion to issue a written extension, I guess, is the motion, right?
Right.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Peter,
You're on mute, Peter.
That was a yes. I can read lips.
yeah, it's thumbs up too. Savannah,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and Frank.
Yes.
I also vote yes. You'll prepare that, Elaine?
Yes, I will, and I'll send it out. And I have a request while we're speaking of documents. There is a document circulating at the moment, a certificate of compliance that Jim has. If I could get that back as soon as possible. I sent it out on August 13th, and it still has not yet been signed.
Yeah, I have one more signature I need, so I don't know.
So if you guys could just do that, that would be good, because it's already been more than 21 days.
Jim, I could come by on Saturday. I can't come by before then.
Okay,
Jimmy, I can come by tomorrow if that helps.
all right. Whoever can come by, it'd be great.
Yeah, it's for 30 Bellevue Avenue.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, if you could go by tomorrow, that'd be great if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'll let you know if for some reason I can't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rebecca, did you find anything on 67 Harrison?
No, the laptop isn't connecting to the desktop at the office.
Okay,
Why don't we just put that on for next time?
okay.
Thanks.
All right. What else would either of you like to
Removals?
cover?
What
What's
about
that,
the
Judy?
tree removal? Tree removals?
Or I was even going to suggest the Mulligan Rule sign-off sheet because that
Ooh,
can be quick.
Even better.
Okay. Let's do it.
I think I sent you guys an email on that. I'm not sure if you guys remember it. But basically, I put together a sign-off sheet so that if you miss a meeting, that there is information presented and you intend on voting at that meeting, you need to go and sign this paper and verify that you have reviewed the information that was covered in that meeting. So
You-
obviously you need to do that.
You sent that email to us, did you, Rebecca?
I
When was
sure
that?
did.
I have not received that. When, do you know when you sent it?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it either, Rebecca.
Okay.
There's
So
been a lot of
hold on one
emails.
sec.
Yeah, there's been a lot of emails that could have been,
I do. Hold on. Sent. Give me one sec. I'm just looking it up. Yeah, sorry for the complications. My this laptop here, I'm having trouble. It's supposed to connect to the desktop, but it doesn't always. So I have this because it's an email. I sent it to you guys on, I think I'm lying to you. I think I just sent it to Judy.
Not good enough. No offense, Judy.
Okay.
Close.
So, hey, Rebecca, is it, when you say that we have to have notice of the meeting, does that mean we speak to our colleagues about what happened, or do we have to meet, do we have access to, the recorded version of the meeting so we can roll the tape?
Of course, everyone does.
It's easy, just right off the website of town?
yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, they're all posted.
So Rebecca, you sending that now to us?
I can. Would you like it right now?
Well, we'd like it eventually, so why not now?
You do have 7 minutes.
Well, don't they just have to vote to approve that they're going to use the Mulligan Rule? Wasn't it the whole,
Yeah, I think they have to vote on you have to vote to.
to accept it?
I sent it.
Yeah, got it.
Someone did. So it's a form that I was thinking that we might use that you can see that basically, and I think, Judy, you have to sign it or show it to the town clerk. Is that
The
correct?
town clerk,
Yeah.
yes, you have to sign it with the town clerk.
And you fill it out and it basically covers you in the event you're missing a meeting or you miss a meeting, you don't attend a meeting that perhaps and likely goes on for a while and you end up voting on it. So to prevent any issues, you fill out this paperwork that states that you have reviewed the information, which of course you would do. And then that leaves you available to vote on it.
And Rebecca, how does this work? Do we fill it out and email it to the town?
Probably during COVID, that's what we'll have to do. Fill it out, send it to me, and I'll take care of it from there if I can. And then I've never done this, so we'll see how it goes. And
Okay.
I take a couple iterations, but I'm certain we can iron it out and figure out the best way to do it. It's a procedural thing. I just think it's in everyone's best interests. In particular, like I said, if you're these projects that go for multiple meetings, it just
Yeah.
kind of covers everybody and makes sense.
Can I make a minor modification to the form?
You bet.
We're not the department that's listed in the form. We're the Conservation Commission. Look at the last line of the form.
Yep, that's fine. Well, where is it?
Right, it says Community Development Department, that's all.
Oh, it got, the formatting clearly is all messed up. I have it differently on the laptop, which I would love to be able to send to you, but as I've mentioned, frustratingly, it's not working. I've had IT look at it twice. I don't know why, but nonetheless, let me know and I will ensure that it's cleaned up. So I will take that off.
Okay.
Does it mean if there's multiple hearing sessions, what does it mean? Says that if where the other side missed a single hearing session, does that mean if you miss two, you're out? Or does it mean that you have to fill out two of those, one for each time you missed it?
It's a great question. I don't think I know the answer off the top of my head, but
I was looking down,
you
that
can
the
take this
public
down.
arises from the court decision which held that planning board decision on a subdivision plan is a judicial hearing. Who vote on the plan must have attended the hearings on the plans. The Mulligan case involved two hearings on a proposed subdivision plan. At least 2 Massachusetts trial court judges have refused to apply the rule that are overly stringent when there are a series of public meetings. Furthermore, okay. I just didn't know whether that was, I guess I'm assuming it means that you just can't say that you can't list a series of meetings. You can't list on more than one date on item 3, which says on blank date.
But you can do multiple forums for different dates.
Yeah, multiple forms. I was just thinking, because we have things that go on, you have 7 or 8 here. It is entirely possible someone could miss 2. And you know, but
So we need to vote this in, correct, Judy?
Yes.
And who did this request come from? Where did this come from?
It's referenced repeatedly and it has been over the years.
if you look down, oh, where did the form come from? Or
Yeah,
where
no,
the,
I guess, how does this come before us?
This has
So-
been referenced at conservation meetings for several years now.
yeah, look
Okay,
at
so Judy, if the answer is you looked this up and you decided
I
to.
looked it up and it said it needs to be voted. to
Okay,
use it.
that's all, that was all my question. That's all.
Okay, got it.
It was you, because
Got
you was following up on what you should be doing, so thank you. Sorry.
My astute research.
Exactly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I'm complimenting you, I didn't mean to give you the 3rd degree,
you.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I know there's been issues where maybe a conservation commissioner has missed a meeting or 2 and the decision was appealed
Yeah,
because they were missing information potentially and their vote should not have counted. So anyways, would somebody like to make a motion to implement the Mullen rule?
I make a motion to implement the Mullen Rule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Frank? Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yep.
Savannah,
I have a concern. Since I missed the last 2. Does a person like me, let's say for future or anybody else, will be penalized? Is that what, maybe I'm not understanding?
You're not penalized. It's just your ability to vote.
My bill, okay. All right, so it's ability to vote. Okay, so that's fine. Even though I won't be part of the discussions if I
No,
review.
you can't. No. It's so that you review the previous discussion.
Okay,
So you'll sign that you've reviewed it.
okay. All right, fine. I'm
The
in favor.
commission can still penalize you.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
severe penalties will result.
Okay,
all right,
let
Teresa,
me write this down. Okay, no, I'm in favor. That's fine.
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. I did not miss anybody, correct? Everybody's nodding their heads. All right, so we're good on that one. And that brings us to 7:30. All right, 7:30, we have DEP 313608. That is 200 to 400 Quannapowitt Parkway. And this is a continued public hearing. And do we have the applicants?
Hi there, this is Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting. I'm representing the applicants tonight with CCF Quannapowitt Parkway Company. So I'm a wetland scientist. I work with Goddard Consulting. We submitted the narrative for the notice of intent submittal, going over the regulatory discussion and how the project is going to comply with the Wetlands Protection Act. So tonight we were asked to present the compliance that our project's going to have with the project and just go over the wetland resource areas with you guys. So if I may share my screen, that'll probably be the best. I have a little PowerPoint that I could show you.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Excuse me, but we wanted to start with the riverfront before we did anything else. We're not concerned with the rest of it at this point.
Yep, that was going to be part of my discussion. So I'll get into that discussion, going through each performance standard. under the Wetlands Protection Act. And then, and you guys can ask questions if you have any. So. So on my Zoom, it's saying I cannot speak unless I stop sharing the screen. Is there a way to around that?
That is strange.
Let me just try again, I guess.
Yeah, you should be okay. You are muted. I do see that. Try it now.
Mitch, you came off mute for a second.
Yeah, that's because I stopped sharing the screen. So let me try one more time here. Okay, I think it's working now. Can you guys hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, great. So here's the subject property, 200 Quannapowitt Parkway. So right now our existing conditions on the site is a large business building, commercial site that has a large footprint and large amounts of parking area surrounding it. Over here to the left side of my screen where my mouse is, that's where you enter the property from a driveway here. And you can drive through around the site, that's Quannapowitt Parkway, circling around the site and then back down here, and then you exit the site over here. You can also enter this way and exit the opposite way. There's a existing pathway going over here along the pond. That is town land right there between the subject parcel and the Lake Quannapowitt. Over here to the left side of the screen is parking lots for another development across a perennial stream here, one of the main resource areas that is part of this project. And then up top of the screen, this is Interstate 95. Which abuts the backside of the property. And then over here to the right side of the screen where my mouse is, that is part of our property. That is extensive wetlands and natural areas that are remaining outside of the scope of work. It's undevelopable and is going to be dedicated as conservation land at the conclusion of the project. So this whole area over here is going to be permanently protected and no work is going to occur within this wetland area. So those are the existing conditions of the site. I'll get into some of the resource areas that we're concerned with that have buffer zones going onto the site. So here most notably is Lake Quannapowitt. This green line demarcates the bank of the pond, which is a resource area that has a 100-foot buffer zone off of that. And on this plan, we've marked the 100-foot buffer zone as this blue line. So if you follow my mouse, that's the blue line for the 100-foot buffer zone off of the bank of Lake Quannapowitt. We've also shown the 25-foot buffer zone, this lighter blue line here. And just since we're on the topic, this orange line right here is floodplain. So I'll discuss that later in the presentation. That'll be the last resource area I discuss in detail. Over here to the left side of my screen is a perennial river that travels underneath Interstate 95, down past the site and under Quantapowhat Parkway through a culvert and into Lake Quantapowhat. So this river is subject to runoff from several areas such as Interstate 95, the parking lot off-site, and the parking lot on-site. Off of that river, we have a 200-foot riverfront area that is located here in this pink line. That's a 200-foot boundary of the riverfront area. And then we have the interior inner riverfront area also demarcated with this pink purple line here. And off of that river, we have bordering vegetated wetland demarcated in green here. And that is extensive. It is all in this area, off-site, this area on-site, and portions of it along the property boundary in the back here, and connecting over to this large extensive wetland system over to the right of the screen. Up in this part of the wetlands, there is a intermittent stream that flows from this side of the site down the property line here and eventually makes its way towards the perennial river here. So a lot of hydrological connection here. All the wetlands are bordering the river or intermittent stream bank. So that concludes my discussion about our existing resource areas. I guess I'll just follow along this flood line one last time, just to show you where some of the floodplain is. Again, I'll discuss that in more detail towards the end of the presentation. So I'm going to switch over to proposed conditions, just to give you an overview of kind of what resource areas we're going to be having work involved in. So work is going to occur over in the riverfront area on this side. Work is going to occur in the buffer zone to BVW along the back of the site here. And work is going to occur in the buffer zone to the BVW over on this side in the buffer zone. And work is going to occur just within the 100-foot buffer zone to the bank of Lake Quantapowhat in these few areas here. So this is a picture of the perennial river that is currently flowing from Interstate 95 down the property line of the site and into Lake Quantapowhat. So off to the left is riverfront area that is on our site. Off to the right is riverfront area that is off of our site. So over here, just to let you in on this, so right here is where they're going to propose wet basins for stormwater to infiltrate into these wet basins and be treated and infiltrate before groundwater eventually makes it back into the river system here. At the moment, it's existing lawn. So this area is subject to sheet flow during heavy rainstorms. It's also subject to runoff from the Quantapowhat Parkway, as well as the parking lots and buildings that are on site. So when it rains, all the stormwater eventually makes it to some swales that bring water very close to the bank of the river. This is the backside of the site. This is portions of the buffer zone here, of the 100-foot buffer zone. As you can see, the infrastructure within the roadways has deteriorated. Sediment frequently escapes from these islands, makes it onto the roadway, and during heavy rainstorms, such as the one we had last week, large puddles can form and flow will take that sediment off site and into the wetlands. This is the back corner of the site, so wetlands are in this back area, and flow can just easily go right into the wetlands over here. Again, the intermittent stream bank is also within this BVW.
A question
Here's
on
a-
that, sorry, excuse me.
Yep.
Question, who's currently responsible for maintaining the condition of those islands in that parking area?
I am unaware of who is responsible. Perhaps.
That would be, so the existing property owner, we're an applicant on behalf of the property owner, but the existing property owner would be responsible for that. That's on their site.
All right, because it is quite degraded.
It is indeed. Yeah, I was going to show you some more pictures of the degraded condition here.
It's been that way for years.
Yep. So here's another photo of the degraded conditions. As you can see, the curbing here has been broken up over the years. People have dug away this area, created kind of a swale here to allow water to flow into this area. And the photo was taken just a few days ago of the water after a rainstorm flowing down that swale. So as you can imagine, all this sediment is just getting picked up by this flow here and bringing it right into the wetlands over here. So the conditions of the parking lot are quite degraded. Things are falling apart. So the proposed project is going to really improve the condition of the buffer zones and wetland resource areas themselves. Again, here's another example. Over here is the perennial river. So Interstate 95 is off, picture over here. River flows this way towards Lake Quantapowhat. So when stormwater comes here, goes into this pipe and shoots down this paved swale here, picks up sediment. You can see the sediment sitting in the swale and eventually makes its way down into the BVW and river right there. Picture was taken last week of that circumstance. As you can see, the water, there was a lot of water with this one, and just overtop the sidewalk, flows down that swale, picking up the sediment that has made it into that paved swale and takes it into the resource areas. So again, with the proposed project and the wet basin that's going to be proposed here, stormwater will be able to flow into the basin, infiltrate properly. Sediment can settle before any groundwater recharge can make it to that river and into Lake Quantapowhat. So those are our existing conditions, showing the degraded surfaces and falling apart infrastructure.
Can I ask you a quick question? So, it's been in this condition for the last decade, maybe more. If there wasn't a development project here, the Concom would likely consider, some type of emergency order to get them, to get the owner to address this. And that would include some assessment of the damage that's already been done to the resource area. To what extent has these sediments come into the resource area and accumulated? Are you planning any type of mitigation in the resource areas to pull that sediment that's escaped out of there and restore it to natural conditions?
So we weren't going to propose any mitigation quite like that. We were going to restore certain areas where these existing swales are. For example, in this other one here, instead of the swale and damaged buffer zone, that's going to be turned into a wet basin back here, so that stormwater can infiltrate properly. So this area is going to be turned into a wet basin to improve those conditions. In my opinion, going into the wetlands to remove 10 or 20 years worth of damage might just end up doing more damage at this point. Having crews go in there, trying to get out sediment that really, would it just be better off if we leave it there, let the vegetation regrow in, and avoid future sedimentation.
I think what I would like to see is, some type of assessment to document that opinion, because I think that's an opinion and it's really not based on much. I would imagine that the damage is not insignificant. Like I said, it's been like this for a decade. I know we've had, several events like the one we just had over the weekend. And I would like to at least some type of analysis to say, okay, the damage is this, the disturbance to correct this damage would outweigh the benefits of removing. I'd like to see that benefit analysis done to document that, because that is an important resource area there as it flows directly into the lake. And, I would like to see to what extent that's been degraded over the years.
Yep. We can definitely evaluate it, check out the resource areas more closely and see what damage has been done over the past years. And we can definitely report back to you on that.
I would think should be some temporary measures, silt socks or something, to provide some blocking of continued sediments from getting into there. And maybe some other locations too. I think something at least temporary should be done to prevent further damage.
Around those grassed islands where, it's obviously flowing out onto the parking lot and, into any stormwater accumulation areas.
I could just add to that, just for the record, these swales have been historically here for the swales themselves for forever. I ran this lake as a kid, so it's not like these have been put in. This has been the natural condition of the site where these are. And I was out there during the last rain event. The water just is immense. The way it flows, I don't think a silt sock's going to do anything. It's going to end up in a wetland. It's not like that this property owner is abusing something. This is just the way this property was designed. Probably it was designed and built in the 50s prior to the Wetlands Protection Act. So I don't want to, cast like, oh, these people are evil people. This is just the way the property was built back then, and it's operating the way it was designed to operate historically from when it was built. It's not
there was a curb. You can see there was a curb right in that.
There was always a cut in that curb to allow the water out. That's how it's always gotten out. It's not like they just broke it up and said, oh, we're going to break it up and push the water in there.
Well, it looks like a machine has created that swale. It's pretty.
No, that's just natural water flow, Bob. I've known this site since I was a kid. I have personal knowledge of this going back to the 1970s.
Didn't Mitch just mention that they did scrape it to allow water to flow more quickly into the resource area? I think he said something along those lines.
Well, this is broken up. This is broken up probably from the town snowplows that plow it. So that's how the curbing's been destroyed. I mean, and I'm not saying we're not going to look at this as you requested. I'm not, I'm not saying that, but I just don't want it like, oh, this is like a horrible thing that's happened in the past 10 years. This is the way this is the problem with this property, and that's why we're trying to improve it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're a little sensitive too, because the previous owners did come to us and, they had a great plan to improve it, certainly an area that needed a lot of improvement, and then everything went silent. And, we were left a little frustrated. And like I said, in the absence of a project, we would likely, issue an enforcement order to correct all these.
But Frank, it's not the prior owner, it's the current owner.
Well, the current owner.
No, I mean,
prior owner.
The goal is, Frank, with this project is to come up with a great plan that's going to benefit the wetland and the lake, and to get it implemented and get it done.
Right, but that doesn't undo, the sins of the past, if you will. And obviously we want that wetland to be, the resource area to be performing the way it should, and that's really my primary concern.
Yeah, and also I would just say, I mean, that Brian, that will happen, if we approve it, and if the proponent gets the approval, buys the property and does it, that will be years from now. I mean, so again, I think the idea is just to do something in the interim until that's done.
That's a point well taken. Yeah, I understand. So like, if this project's going to take a number of years to build, you want something done here in the interim, that's gonna, not allowed to go on for 2 years while the project's under construction.
Right.
Right, we can slow the bleeding now.
Yeah, that point is very well taken, and, I understand that. That's a very good point. So,
Yep, so I'm thinking we can evaluate those areas and maybe come up with our own little strategy to address those issues and maybe help out the current condition in the meantime while construction is underway.
This is Peter. Is this something where we would, would this be a situation where we would hire our own consultant to advise us on? I mean, I'm thinking of the regulations which say this is a redevelopment of a riverfront area, and that there has to be an improvement. And I guess and I guess the question is, we're not looking for just any improvement. And I guess I was sort of wondering what would be I would like to sort of understand what are the menu of things that we could do. What are the available menu of things that could be done to improve the condition of the riverfront area, and how many of those how many of those things are being addressed or will be.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Peter, because I was just going to get into riverfront area discussions.
Pardon me?
I said I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just going to begin discussing the riverfront area and what we are proposing to do there. So here's a site plan that shows our riverfront. Oh, maybe not this one. Here's our riverfront discussion. So our proposal is to put, this building here, parking lot here. All that is within the 100 or between the 100 and 200 foot riverfront area. So this is going to be, basically a reduction in impervious surfaces and degraded area. There's going to be a total of 10,337 square feet of degraded area removed from the total riverfront area, most of it occurring between this 100 and 200 foot riverfront area. I'll show you this picture. So this shows you our existing degraded surfaces. So as you can see, between the 100 and 200 foot, there is a considerable amount of degraded area contained in that riverfront area. All this gray stuff, that is the degraded riverfront. Same within the 100 foot, this is Quannapowitt Parkway. We are not proposing to move that, so that is going to stay. We are proposing to remove this this swale, that's the vegetated, or not, that's the paved swale that I was showing you with the stormwater flowing right over the sidewalk here into the swale, picking up sediment, bringing it right down to the river. And this is a walkway over the bridge of the river here, so that's going to stay. So within the 100 foot, there's some degraded surfaces that will be removed. Within the 100 to 200, significant amounts of degraded surfaces will be removed. This is our proposed plan. So as you can see, Quannapowitt Parkway still remains here. Bridge still remains here. And this lawn area is going to be transitioned into wet basins so that when stormwater comes, instead of flowing over the sidewalk into that paved swale towards the river, that it will settle in these man-made wet basins that will be landscaped with native plantings, effective with dealing with hydric soil conditions that will thrive in the area, that will help treat the stormwater flowing into the wet basins. So this is typically known as a improvement to riverfront area, is when you implement stormwater management features. So this wet basin is going to be a significant improvement to our riverfront area. Another wet basin is going to be proposed over here. Right here is where that other swale was that I showed you with the sediment and broken curb. So over here, this wet basin is going to replace that swale that has all that sediment, and instead it's going to be a basin where it can effectively capture stormwater runoff. So the water will remain in the wet basins, infiltrate into the soils. The plants that thrive in the hydric soils in there are going to be able to treat the water, and eventually the cleaner water will make its way into the bordering vegetated wetlands and perennial rivers. So this portion here is, again, the 100 and 200 foot riverfront area. As you can see, compared to this one, there's less impervious degraded surfaces. We're increasing the size of our vegetated islands here in the parking lots and vegetated pathways and such, and reducing our degraded surfaces significantly. So overall, this is a pretty good project for the riverfront area. We're improving existing conditions by improving our stormwater management, by decreasing degraded surfaces. So those two right there are big improvements to the riverfront area.
Can I just ask you one quick question, Mitch?
Yep.
The beige part, to the other side of the swale I'm sorry, the bridge, right? That's staying. Is that new vegetation? And what was that? Is that like newly disturbed? I mean, what is that beige area? You see?
This part?
Oh no.
Oh, this part.
That part.
That is that's grass. So everything that is this color is grass. So that's existing lawn right now.
Okay, so that's not changing. That was my.
That's not changing.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what is that brown on the other side of the? What is that?
That is outside of our limit of work. So that'll be transitioned to its own native succession. So it'll just regrow on its own.
Okay.
It's outside of our grading.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Certainly.
Just because we're gonna hang out in the riverfront area for a bit now, can we start at the very beginning of the riverfront area? And let's first start with, I know you guys are working under redevelopment, but let's go through the redevelopment standards, and also let's go through the definition of redevelopment, because in order for a redevelopment to be applicable, it has to be degraded. In order for it to be degraded, it has to have impervious or an absence of topsoil. So the way I look at it is your grassed areas are neither of those. They not only have topsoil, but they are also pervious, not impervious. Therefore, the area that you're proposing that is currently grass and you're going to turn into a stormwater management wet basin is not degraded, and therefore that area does not qualify for redevelopment. That particular area would need to be new development and meet the stricter performance standards. So can we start with talking about which areas are new development per se, which areas are redevelopment, how those get defined, and what the performance standards are for those? Because I think we should start at the very beginning.
And
Okay.
if I could add to that, I have been looking over some of this stuff this afternoon, and at about 6:15 this afternoon, I sent you all sort of my thoughts and organizational structure, which you may find in your inboxes, which I hope will sort of organize this whole topic. So it's in your inbox.
Not seeing it. Wait, maybe I am. Hang on.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, 6:16. Got it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elaine.
Okay. So would you like me to start? So what you said about the area of the grass being non-degraded, that is 100% correct. That is a non-degraded surface. It has topsoil. It is considered previously developed because it is a mowed lawn area. So if you are going to call it a new development, that is actually exempt from the regulations, the new development performance standards that you can put in stormwater management features to improve the condition of the riverfront area. So that settles that one. As far as,
Can you reference that? Can you show us where that is?
yes,
Thank you.
just give me a second here.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay. So under the Riverfront Performance Standards 10.58, 584, D, yep, 10.584D, 1A, it says, if there is not a 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation within the riverfront area, which there isn't, existing vegetated cover shall be preserved or extended to the maximum extent feasible to approximate a 100-foot wide corridor to natural vegetation. Replication, and here's the key point. Replication and compensatory storage required to meet other resource area performance standards are allowed within this area. Structural stormwater management measures may be allowed only when there is no practical alternative. So in that part, we are making these wet basins for two reasons. One is to allow us to fulfill our compensatory flood storage requirements. And two is for the structural stormwater management measures that right now that area is the most desirable area to put our stormwater management, because that's where the natural flow of stormwater goes. So it'd be the most reasonable place to put our stormwater management features there. So I hope that answers your question about that.
Mitch, could you just tell me where you found that again, please?
Yep, 10.58 4
My pen's not.
D.
Wait a minute, my pen's not working. 10.584. What was the rest of it?
D.
B.
D.
I still didn't get that.
D as in dog.
Okay, D.
1
Right.
A.
I'm looking at the, I don't know, I have a printed copy of this. I don't know if anyone has one on their thing, but it's page 233 out of 206. If we're all looking at the same thing, the numbered pages, install on the computer.
All right, so hold on a second. You're saying that that stormwater basin is, did you say it was exempt because of 5.84 D1A?
Yes.
You have to meet the-
However, that's if you're considering it new development, which we've taken the stance that this is a redevelopment project.
But
Why are
not
we
in that
looking at
location.
4? So why are we looking at 4? Why aren't we looking at 5 then, right?
Hold on,
That-
hold on,
Right.
Peter. Hold on, Peter.
Well,
but
she
not
she
in
asked
that
a question
location.
about new development standards, so I answered it. But
But-
yes, if you'd like to get into the redevelopment, I'll go through each standard of that as well.
Let's do that in a sec, but let's stick with this one. So you're correct. I was suggesting that this is developed, not degraded. That's true. And I do believe that that would make it under the performance standards, not the redevelopment, but section 4, not 5. For this section only, obviously the remaining is reviewed under the redevelopment. Totally agree with that. But you're saying that the stormwater management standards are exempt from review under the performance under section 4 because you're referencing a section of 4 under no significant adverse impacts, which is D. And then under 1, it says the issuing authority may allow an alteration up to yada, yada. And then under A, it says at a minimum, 100-foot undisturbed is provided. And you're right, it doesn't exist there right now. And you're saying based on that sort of outline is where you're saying that this stormwater management structure doesn't need to go through the remaining performance standards based on that.
Well, it definitely needs to meet DEP standards.
Not for stormwater, I'm saying Riverfront.
Well, since we're taking this full stance that this is a redevelopment project, we're not even looking at new development, but we do happen to meet that performance standard.
So, but that isn't degraded in that area. And DEP has made and has taken the position that you can separate the riverfront area into areas that are required to be reviewed as redevelopment and areas that are not, because they're not applicable because they're not degraded. And you can piece it. One riverfront can have both reviews on one side.
Okay.
Well,
If
I'm
you'd
actually-
like us, what's that?
I guess I was kind of discussing, like, is this something you're familiar with? Does that make sense to you? Or
Yes, there's been several times where DEP or commissions have argued that the site is split up into new development and redevelopment. So what we've done is we've gone and we've provided them explanations for both, how they've complied with both new development and redevelopment. So if you so please, we could, put out the performance standards and explain how we meet new development standards as well.
Okay.
So to go back, you're saying that even if this was reviewed as under 4, which is new development, right? Am I right on that, or?
Not the whole, just those sections. You wouldn't.
Yeah,
you wouldn't do the whole thing.
Your point, I'm sorry, Rebecca, is your point that 5 addresses redevelopments and that has rigid standard? And your point is that we need to decide, we need to make a determination, what is new development, what portion of the riverfront should be under the more lenient standards and what portion should be under the 10.584 standards? Is that your point?
That is the point. I think.
Okay, so hypothetically, if their portion of this is looked at under, and I don't know how we make the distinction of which is a new development and which is a redevelopment. We'll put that aside for a second. But if this were considered a new development, would this, I'm looking at this, this D1A. But does that mean that this is the point, sir, is the point you're making that if this were new development, that it would meet the standards?
That's not what I'm saying, no.
Yeah. No,
I'm
I'm
not
wondering-
sure that's what they're saying.
I just don't know what D1A is supposed to say. So it's saying here that as long as you provide 100-foot wide, in other words,
Well, I think it's a little confusing because that reference is embedded within a few sections. It's a few paragraphs deep into
right.
that set of performance standards. So you would want to, for your purposes, we would start at the beginning. We wouldn't jump four sections deep.
So the first step is to make a demarcation as to what is a redevelopment and what is not.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a few comments on this topic? This is Scott Goddard of Goddard Consulting.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So Mitch and I work together at the office in this. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've taught courses to mass commissioners on this topic in particular, and I've dealt with this particular issue many dozens of times. And I've definitely seen different commissions and different members of DEP sort of look at this differently. In my opinion, the regulations are quite clear when you read section 1058.5, that if it says specifically that if a riverfront area contains degraded area in an area that has previously, it says it's either previously developed or degraded, but that it must contain degraded area, then the riverfront for the project is treated as redevelopment as long as you are making a net improvement to the riverfront area over existing conditions. You have to look at the riverfront in its entirety, and there's a standards A through G on how that's evaluated for a net improvement. And so it takes into consideration things like a lack of existing stormwater management infrastructure or amounts of degraded surfaces that exceed currently what would be allowed under 1058.4, which is, and that's in this case. The only time we would treat it as a new development project is if there was more development allowable under 1058.4 than what was already previously degraded and or previously developed. So in that case, for example, when you're allowed 5,000 square feet or 10%, for example, but you might have those zones within the 0 to 100 foot. Well, that's not allowed under new development, right? So in a case like that, you might want to apply new development standards if you wanted your net project to have a greater impact of up to 10% of alteration of 5,000 square feet if you had less than that. But if you wanted your project to be still smaller than existing degraded or developed conditions, but you wanted to be within the 0 to 100 foot where the impact already existed, you could look to do redevelopment projects in that case, so long as you were improving the riverfront over existing conditions. There's an umbrella clause at the beginning of the redevelopment provisions that basically say, hey, look, guys, we have an existing condition that's grandfathered in because of what's there. We could do nothing. We could leave the site as it is, and it would be allowable under state law because it's grandfathered. However, an applicant comes forward with an application. They say, we have a degraded condition. We have a previously developed condition. And what's the distinction between previously developed? Well, previously developed can include degraded or non-degraded surfaces. For example, in this case, we have some like landscape islands or things like that. Well, okay, a landscape island has soil, it can have vegetation on it, but it's still part of a previously developed scenario. It may not be degraded, but it is previously developed. So in this case, you know, if myself or Mitch walks through the standards for redevelopment, we can go through one at a time. And I think in each and every case, A through G, we don't even need to hit F and G because we're making so many net improvements to this project that we overwhelmingly can demonstrate a net benefit to the riverfront area on the 2 points that Mitch already identified, namely reduction of degraded surfaces / impervious surfaces, and the addition of stormwater management. Overwhelming improvements, and those improvements are looked at to do as close to the river as we possibly can. The only thing we can't do is relocate or not proposing to relocate Quinnipiac Parkway and whatnot. So I don't see an avenue by which we ought to get into 1058.4 and alternatives analysis, economically equivalent. It's not applicable. When you evaluate a project under 1058.5, those standards under 1058.4 are notwithstanding. We do not have to do those types of an analysis because we're proposing, in this case, much greater than 5,000 square feet, or much greater than 10% of alteration of the riverfront area, but far less than what's there today. So we end up with a net benefit project. So I'd like to see the commission look to treat this project as a redevelopment project in accordance with 1058.5.
So why were we even looking at 1058.4 D1A then? May I ask?
I think it just came up, there was a question by one member of the commission that if we were to hypothetically treat 1058.4, which is the new development standards for that grass lawn area that separates the river from Lake Quinnipiac, how would this project meet those standards? And, if we did this sort of dissection game that was referred to, which really is nothing more than a game of numbers, and it's not substantive in terms of the intent of this project. You could say, well, okay, the work is allowed. There is stormwater management features allowable within that lawn area, even for a new development project. It's allowable for new development. It's allowable for redevelopment. So I almost think it's kind of, in my professional opinion, in doing this for 25 years and on hundreds of redevelopment sites, that it's my professional opinion, it's kind of a moot point. Either way, we meet the standards. It's easiest to review this project as obviously a redevelopment site. If there's ever been a sort of textbook redevelopment site, I think this is it.
But can I say something? What you just said is important because you said either way you meet the standards, right? And that's what Mitch said.
Sorry, I missed that question. Could you please repeat it? I apologize.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But what you said, what Mitch said is that either way, whether it's considered a redevelopment or not, you meet the standards. And
that is my opinion. Yes.
So why don't we go through them? You guys want to go through the redevelopment standards?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay, so redevelopment within previously developed riverfront areas. So we need to meet A through G, or yeah, A through G and H, I guess. So A, at a minimum, the proposed work shall result in an improvement over existing conditions of the capacity of the riverfront area to protect the interests identified in Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40. When a lot is previously developed, but no portion of the riverfront area is degraded, the requirements of 310 CMR 10.584 shall be met. That's a key word there too. But so the project is going to comply with that standard specifically. It's going to improve existing conditions by reducing degraded surfaces by over 10,000 square feet. It's seen oftentimes as an improvement over existing conditions. Another overall improvement to the existing conditions is the implementation of stormwater management. That way, no more sediment is making it directly to the river and BVW. Instead, stormwater management is being proposed to properly infiltrate our stormwater and treat it before it's hydrologically reconnected to the wetlands and river. So we comply with A.
One question I have on that is, so an engineered stormwater management structure, the wet basin, is an improvement over a grassy buffer to the river?
Yeah, so the grassy buffer, during heavy rainstorms, it's oftentimes the rain will come down and sheet flow off that sloped lawn and down into the river. Like one of those pictures I showed earlier, it was flowing down that swale, but it was also sheet flowing down that lawn. So if we regrade that area, make it a basin so that there's a depression in the land, stormwater will be able to flow into that depression instead of flowing directly into the BVW and into the river.
You
Once
get
it's in
better,
that,
better TSS removal with the basin.
Is stormwater the only performance standard for that, or what are the other interests identified in Mass General Law? I mean, there's habitat requirements. You know, I would say for habitat, it's not an improvement. You know, how are you evaluating that as an overall improvement?
well, I think it has potential to improve wildlife habitat. Instead of a mowed lawn that gets mowed every week or so, we're gonna be inviting native species, native wetland species that are going to be able to thrive in those depressions where hydric soils are likely to develop. Those plants, you know, they could be cattails, they could be highbush blueberries that will benefit birds who can eat the blueberries, and larger herbaceous plants, when they die in the wintertime, you know, they topple over, create micro habitats for smaller rodents to go crawl in and shelter in. So I do believe the wet basins are a improvement to wildlife over existing lawn area, which serves little to no wildlife habitat.
And that close? I mean, how many feet are you away from the actual resource area at that point?
I would say it's looking like 5 feet or so.
I mean, don't you need to, what's the minimum setback for putting that there?
So since the lawn goes right up to the BVW, that's basically our setback is that BVW line. We could go right up to that line, but we're not. We're gonna keep our limit of work, you know, at 5 feet away from that line.
Does the water
Regulations
flow?
are a
Sorry,
little bit
Frank,
better than I do. So sorry, Bob, go ahead.
is the water flowing directly across Parkway into that basin? Or is it going in through a pipe? Or how is it getting there?
Mitch, do you want me to?
Yeah,
this is-
Nick, if you can hop on that, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. So this is Nick Delacava. We're a professional engineer with Allen & Major Associates. And eventually we'll get into a detailed discussion of these basins and all the other stormwater BMPs that we're providing on site. But essentially, there's going to be a vegetated filter strip in place of a certain length of curb in that area, which will allow the water to flow from Quinnipiac Parkway through that filter strip and into these wet basins.
Okay.
And Frank, just to add to some of the improvements that this wet basin provides, the biggest improvement from a stormwater perspective is nutrient load reduction. It's going to allow.
I understand all that. Yep, I understand that.
Yep. Okay. That's really the main objective here, is because of the location and of Quinnipiac Parkway, so close to the floodplain. There's little that we can do to fill that area to really build it up to manage that stormwater. So we're left with what's on the other side of that parkway, and it is that grassed area. And one of the few options is to create these wet basins to help capture and store that water for a certain period of time before it overflows into the wetlands and the perennial stream.
Okay. Yeah, I think I got a little excited and jumped to the stormwater redevelopment standard C, where we talk about how close you can actually develop to the riverfront resource. So maybe I could ask my question when we get to C. You know, can we still build our stormwater management structure that close to the resource, where this says that development has to be a certain distance away, and you know, how are we getting past that?
Yep. So yeah, maybe we could address that when I move on to C. I'll get to that for you.
Okay.
So I'll just move on to B for now. So stormwater management is provided according to standards established by the department. I'm sure Nick could weigh in on that. According to him, we do meet the standards set by DEP. So that's going to be involved in our next presentation. He's going to go into more detail on how exactly we are meeting those standards. But for sake of this conversation, we believe that we meet B as well. So far we meet A and B.
Yeah, and I can confirm, we meet and exceed the stormwater standards in the handbook. And we'll go over that at a subsequent meeting.
Thanks, Nick. So C, within 200-foot riverfront areas, proposed work shall not be located closer to the river than existing conditions or 100 feet, whichever is less, or not closer than existing conditions within 25-foot riverfront areas, except in accordance with 310 CMR 10.585 F or G, which are mitigation standards. So I'm going to point out, so we're not going to be working closer than existing conditions within the 25-foot riverfront area. The lawn goes right up to the BBW edge. So that would be the closest point we could do work, but we're keeping it about 5 feet away from that point. Therefore, we meet 10.585 C.
You're using the edge of lawn as your existing condition, even though that's not considered degraded.
Yes. Okay.
And again, just to kind of recap on that point, again, this is Scott. So if our riverfront area under 1058.5 contains degraded area, then at that point, both the previously developed land and the degraded land are collectively the land that is being redeveloped, as opposed to, undisturbed forested lands and such like that. And that's what it says in the introductory paragraphs of 1058.5.
And so I'm sorry, so grassy area is considered that then?
It's considered previously developed, yes.
Right, that's my question, okay.
Any more comments before I move on to D? Okay, 10.585D. Proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside of riverfront area or towards the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except in accordance with 310 CMR 10.585 F or G, which again are the mitigation standards. So our structures are completely moving towards the riverfront area boundary and away from the river itself. Again, I'll show you here. So this is our basically our limit of the degraded surfaces here, and this is going to be removed from that area, and we're going to have this areas of parking lot are going to be shifted towards the riverfront area boundary, here and here as well. And we're creating some more landscaped areas rather than have structures remain in those areas. So we comply with 10.585D. Any questions on that one?
Not to go, yeah, I don't have a question on that, not to go backwards, but I have your notice of intent open and I was looking at your response to standard C. And you referenced the walkway over the stream and reference existing degraded areas. And maybe that's where the source of my confusion was. It reads, due to the existing walkway over the stream, existing degraded areas are located up to the bank of the stream. Says work is not proposed up to the bank, therefore work will be located closer to the river than existing conditions. I think I was a little confused by the reference to the walkway. How is that relevant? Because that seems a little bit different than what you told me.
Yep. So it's that is also considered very close to the stream. It's right up to the bank of the river. So the degraded pathway. The pathway is considered a degraded surface. So that is right up to the river boundary. So that it pairs up with my description of the lawn area as well.
Well, let's hypothetically say that that wasn't considered degraded to have a path, because I wouldn't consider that area degraded by having a small path that goes up to there. And I've seen, in opinions made that, if you do have a path, it's not considered. Would that change anything by your definition of existing conditions, or how is that different? Because again, what you're saying is a little bit different than what I'm reading in the NOI.
Yeah. So could you explain that again? You're saying hypothetically, if the pathway was
if it was a grass path, for example,
a grass path,
yes,
then yeah, it would still be the same because it's a maintained, developed area up to 5 feet away from the river.
That opinion is made based on the definition of existing conditions, not based on the path, right? Not based on degraded land, but based on what you call an existing condition. Is that accurate?
I got to be honest, I was a little confused by that.
Okay, I mean, I've
out one more time.
So I guess the reason why you can put that stormwater feature so close to the resource area, the riverfront, in the riverfront, is because of existing conditions. It's not because you have degraded land up to the bank, right? If you did not have degraded land up to the bank, that would not change what you're doing here, because the existing conditions, i.e. the grass, which is you're considering disturbed, or what?
Yes, disturbed, previously developed, yeah.
Previous developed goes up to the bank. So that's how you are able to get that stormwater feature so close.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to E. The area of proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area, provided that the proposed work may alter up to 10% if the degraded area is less than 10% of the riverfront area, except in accordance with 310 CMR 10.585 FRG, which are the mitigation standards. So here, we will not be exceeding the amount of degraded area within riverfront area. We're going to be reducing the amount of degraded area by 10,337 square feet. So we meet that performance standard. Then F and G and H, those refer to mitigation measures if you can't meet A through E. So since we've met A through E, we don't need to meet performance standards F and G and H. So that goes over all the performance standards for 10.585, the redevelopment standards. And we've just demonstrated that we meet each of the performance standards. So the project will comply with that aspect of our resource area development.
And Mitch, another question is, I have the NOI open, and I know you do this on a full-time basis. I do this every two Thursdays a month. You did an alternatives analysis at the end of your comparison to the performance standards. What's the requirement to do that analysis? What drove you to do that?
So Nick, he actually gave me the alternatives analysis. He wanted those included just for reference for you guys to know what our alternatives were. When you do analysis for new development, alternatives analysis are required. However, we just put it in there because Nick had made one and we figured why not put it in for you guys.
So there were three alternatives there, and one is leave as is, which is pretty standard in most alternatives analysis. Then the project itself, and then you put one that said move the project closer. I don't understand. So how did you come up with the alternatives for this? Because obviously, is there another alternative where you would say, all right, we'll scale the project back, or we'll move the project further away? Why didn't we provide a larger range of alternatives? Because it seems like the only other alternative you gave to the project was to make it worse. Why not consider a more inclusive universe of alternatives?
Yep. So typically when developers are purchasing sites and proposing plans, they need to make the project economically feasible, which the Riverfront area standards say that the alternatives need to be economically feasible. So we're presuming that if we were to scale back the existing structures and such, that the project would not be economically feasible at that point.
There's only one paragraph. I don't see anything that mentions that. I'm just wondering if that needs to be bolstered a little bit.
That was, that's a new development requirement. So again, we didn't put new development performance standards into our report because we were standing by our redevelopment standard aspect here.
Okay, should that be removed from the NOI since it's irrelevant?
Could be. We figured it'd just be good to put it in there that we considered some alternatives, and but if you wish to take it out, we could easily just take it out.
I was just curious why it was included for a redevelopment project. That's all. Okay.
Yep. Any more questions about redevelopment?
Mitch, when you determined top of bank, did you go out there and actually field survey that?
Yes, these were field surveys and approved in an ORAD, I believe.
Yeah. And these other areas, these degraded areas and non-degraded areas, how did did you calculate those based on your plans, or how did you do that?
Yeah, I believe Nick provided me with our reduction in degraded surfaces calculation. So those were, in the site plans and very accurately calculated.
Yeah, that's correct. We just did takeoffs based on the field survey that was provided, as well as our proposed design plan.
Yeah. And you were talking about a drainage swale between the curbs. Is that right? Did I hear that right? Some type of way for the water to get to the basin?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll have the vegetated filter strips, which we had discussed during the last notice of intent filing with Waterstone. It's a very similar product.
So
It's really
is
just
that, is that through all of these islands? Is that how these vegetated islands get water out of them, or does it just percolate down through the soil?
No, so it's difficult to paint the whole picture without really going through the whole stormwater management system. But from if you're in the parkway, the outside curb closest to the wetlands and resource areas,
Yeah.
those will be the only locations where the vegetative filter strips will be provided. Up in the site, we're actually using deep sump catch basins.
Okay. And the grading in this area pretty much stays the same, is that correct, as far as, you know, the finished grades where the parking lots are?
So within the parkway itself, everywhere there's floodplain present,
Yeah.
we've essentially left it at the same elevation. We're going to be going in there doing a full depth pavement reconstruction, but at the end of the day, it's going to be constructed back to plus or minus its existing elevation.
Okay.
And that's obviously to maintain as much of the compensatory flood storage as we can.
Yeah.
Up when we move into the site, we'll actually be filling that area to raise it to allow us to manage our stormwater a little bit more effectively.
Okay.
Those curved areas within the parking, is that a footpath to get into the lot? There's two of them? Or is that some sort of channel for water?
Those are sidewalks. Yeah, it's for an accessible route
Okay.
from the parkway up into the development site.
Okay, so you don't have to walk through the driveway itself.
Correct. You do not have to walk up the driveway. There'll be walkways connecting all the paths around the lake.
Okay.
Okay.
So can I just ask, at the risk of asking too much, you indicated that you would meet the standards for new development. And that's not in your NOI. Do you want to walk us through that, or is that too much?
I mean, look, this is Scott again. Scott Goddard. I don't think it's necessary at this point, unless the commission feels there will be some added benefit to that. I mean, the short answer is that if we treated the area of lawn in the inner riparian zone as new development, we would just cite the stormwater exemption of not counting that against our square footage that Mitch earlier cited, and that would be the beginning and the end of the
That would
compliance.
be it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Elena or Rebecca, do you have anything else on that?
Well, if you have had a chance to take a look at the information I was able to send, I know I sent it late, probably while some of you were on the way home. One of the documents I sent was a DEP decision. It's a superseding order, and it talks about lots being reviewed under both 4 and 5. I'll just read this DEP superseding order from Amesbury, and it talks about the Amesbury Conservation Commission had stated that there was an exception on this lot for some existing trails on the project site, which were impervious. And DEP said the remaining riverfront area contains topsoil and therefore is well vegetated and supports riverfront area functions. They seem to do a function test. Therefore, the project should be reviewed under both 10.54 and 10.585. In support of this, BSC cites several decisions in which Mass DEP has concluded that although a site had been previously developed, current conditions provided that the evidence of topsoil and vegetative cover supports functions of a riverfront area. And in this instance, they make reference to decisions in which DEP determined that a site could be reviewed under both performance standards for redevelopment and new development, depending on current site conditions. So I thought that was something that should be considered. From a more practical point of view, I think the issue boils down to how this applies. And if you do 4 and you do an alternatives analysis within those areas that are undegraded, then how does it impact the wet detention basin? And I think that it moves the wet detention basin a little bit further away from the river area. And I think it also allows for a more functional wildlife corridor. And that to me is how all of this plays out. When you finish going through all of the regulations, all of the cases, all of the DEP or MACC guidance on this, all of which I've sent to you, what it all boils down to is, what do you get in return if you look at it differently? And if you look at it differently, you get a detention area that has more vegetation in it. And I will apologize here. I just got back from vacation. I haven't really had a chance to take a look at the landscaping plan, but you get an area that has a good, solid wildlife habitat function associated with it, and a landscaping plan which provides all of the functions that the regulations want to see in wildlife habitat. So whether you look at it under 4 or you look at it under 5, I think that's the direction we should be headed in. If you're going to get that close to the perennial stream, what are you doing to ensure that you've got good wildlife habitat there? What are you doing to ensure that you've got good wildlife habitat all the way up and down that stream area? And to my mind, that's what we're looking for ultimately. So there you go. There's my opinion.
This is Scott again. If I could respond briefly, I appreciate a lot of those points, and some of the minutia there could be debated. There has not been a really adjudicatory hearing case law on this matter, but if I take at face value the comments that were made, the citation that you made about the Amesbury case dealt with a naturalized forested area, whereas here we have lawn. So, arguably we could go through the machinations to state that the lawn lacks the functions and values that are sought after in a riverfront area, and that the addition of the stormwater infrastructure is, I think is what you're referring to, is adding in some of those functions and values that currently lack, right? We're adding naturalized vegetation, we're adding improvement to water quality, we're improving the pace of the water quantity, we're creating a corridor for the movement of wildlife, different aquatic and even reptiles and amphibians, often will utilize these bases transiently. So there's we're taking an area that's denuded of riverfront functions and values and effectively using it very well, I think, to create a lot of those functions and values. So I think what we're saying is close to the same thing, but regardless of how we slice this pie, this is a good proposal for the benefit of that perennial stream and ultimately the direct discharge that it has to the nearby lake.
Do you have, see, this is what happens when you just get back from vacation. Do you have any of your out here. Let me take a look at your landscape plan. I'm looking at plan L101. And okay, I'm looking at plan to get to where I'm winding up. I go to plan L101 and look at the landscaping plan. And as I look at the landscaping plan, I see some large trees in the back outside the 100-foot riverfront. I see some existing trees to remain, loam and sod, but I don't see the kind of landscaping that would provide a good wildlife corridor. I don't see too much more than lawn before and lawn after, only lawn after with a wet basin in it. To me, that's an easy problem to solve. It's just a question of landscaping. So,
And I think that's a good point. I like where you're going with that. Before we circle back at the next meeting, give me a chance to revisit that landscaping plan with the landscape architect and the applicants. And if there's an opportunity to, sort of improve what we have there from a wildlife perspective within that close inner riparian zone, that's something I think we could probably take a look at there.
all right, and I know we're not talking about stormwater tonight, but since the stormwater structure provides some wildlife habitat functions, I'd like to ask, would the stormwater structure ever be cleaned out? Is it intended to be landscaped? Is it intended to be a marsh? Would you plant it as a marsh? Would you let it just revert to marsh? And then the second question I have is, it's a wet basin. How long does it take to drain?
So those are good questions. I don't know, Nicholas, if you want to tackle that at all tonight, or you want to kind of postpone that discussion for a subsequent meeting.
Yeah, I mean, well, just real quickly, the basins aren't meant to drain. They're designed to hold water. They're specifically sited in the floodplain and within the groundwater table. So they will have a shallow amount of water in them, and that's what effectively allows a lot of the sediments and the nutrients to settle out in the soil before it goes on to the resource areas.
All right, okay, so the rest of it should probably be addressed in the stormwater function. But since where all of this is headed to is, at least in my mind, is a good riparian corridor with a lot of food and a lot of shelter. If we could just get to that point, I think, at least to my mind, it would address a lot of the issues parsing the regulations up is designed to get to. We could just get there anyway. So I look forward to a new landscaping plan is what I'm getting at.
Understood, and we will take it under advisement and take a look at that a little closer. So outside of Riverfront area, if the commission's ready to move on from this topic, is there a desire to explore the sort of remaining resource area that work is proposed in, which is bordering land subject to flooding? Or would you prefer to table that for another evening?
My thought is that we would be tabling that for the next meeting. Anybody else have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I really wasn't prepared to look at that. I would like to look at the plans a little bit more.
It is approaching 9. Yeah. We do have other business also to take care of.
I think that makes sense, Bob.
Right. So is there anything else that we would like the applicants to come back with for the next meeting? or any questions we're
The two
looking
marching
at?
orders that I took away from this meeting was, one, evaluate existing or historic impacts to the resource area due to the pre-existing stormwater management infrastructure on site, kind of assess the extent and nature of that. And secondly, to revisit the landscaping program along the stormwater basins.
And also, does it make sense to implement any temporary measures in any locations to slow down the potential degradation that's happening out there now?
And during the time, from now until you build what you're gonna be building, assuming.
Yeah,
Well, we can kick that around a little bit.
An administrative issue too that we wanted to talk about. I think there's an existing order of conditions out there. Does that need to be closed out? Did we ever figure that out, Elaine?
I got an email this afternoon, but I just didn't have time to answer it. The answer is yes, you need to close down any order of conditions with a certificate of compliance, whether or not the work has ever been done. As a matter of fact, there is a specific box you can check off on the certificate of compliance that says the work was never commenced. So that makes it easy just for circumstances like this one. So if you want a certificate of compliance on that, I just send in a request for certificate of compliance, and we can simply say the work was never commenced, and it makes issuing the certificate relatively easy because there's nothing to approve. There's nothing to look at. There's no as-built required. But yes, it is required to close out a file.
And that request would come from the existing owner, right?
Yeah, it should. It probably should come from the existing owner, or, the current owner, the current applicant with the owner's permission or sign off, just so the owner knows what's going on and there's some evidence in the file that the owner approves of the request.
Okay.
And that's for the applicants. I'm sorry, I'm muted.
I think the only other issue, I know we started talking about it last week, but the the onboarding of a consultant to help us tackle some of the more complex issues, where a few of us are Thursday evening quarterbacks, and we're familiar with a lot of projects, and we're getting into areas that are a little bit more complex than your typical projects here. So I would certainly feel more comfortable having a consultant to sort of augment what we know already.
Last meeting, we talked about having a drainage, a stormwater consultant, or drainage, and then we said, well, we'll wait till a town engineer signs off on it. Are you talking about a consultant to do all areas?
Yeah, I think the commission should have a discussion about where we want to, sort of improve our areas of knowledge. I think stormwater can be done by Tom. He's competent to do that review. I know we talked about bringing on a consultant to review the performance of the stormwater management systems. What do we call them? The wet basins, for example, and on how they work. That might be a little bit outside of Tom's area, but we can certainly talk to Tom about that and figure out if he's comfortable with his review, or if he would like someone who's more knowledgeable in that respect to look at it. And maybe just an overall, review of, for example, we talked about tonight. Next week we're going to talk about BVW. Maybe a review of each of the resource area delineation and assessment. So that's.
Frank, this is Brian. Frank, this is Brian. Is that quick? Did you mean Bill Renault instead of Tom? You had said Tom.
Oh, did I say Tom? I meant Bill. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I have a colleague. He has the same last name. His name's Tom Renault.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
Just want to make sure.
Sorry.
I didn't know who Tom was. So
We have a secret alias.
He's a guy I keep locked up in my basement. He's great.
I kind of think that we should get someone outside of Bill Renault to take a look at this.
I think that was Frank's suggestion, was to have a consultant, which we did briefly talk about last time.
I agree with that. This is just a very important, very sensitive property.
I concur.
There'd be a consultant to look at the whole thing then. And again, just,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
It's more than one consultant probably.
I think it's would be worthwhile. I think it's a lot of stuff here for us, and I feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and Elaine and Rebecca, do you have, what are your thoughts about how many consultants would be needed?
How many?
Well, do you think one?
You know what? I, for one, would like to sit down and talk to Rebecca about that before I gave an
Yeah,
answer.
I think we should, that sounds like a good idea. I don't think we.
So
I don't know how Rebecca feels, but I'd like to talk to Rebecca first.
Yeah, that's fine. That makes sense.
Yes. And so maybe you could report back to us before the next meeting?
Rebecca, you okay with that?
I am, sounds good.
Maybe involve Bill in that conversation too, to see if he wants to, add some additional expertise to what he already knows.
Bill or Tom, Frank?
Either one.
Right, before I open it up to the public, are there any other questions or requests from the commission? Are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay. All right, hearing none, then we will continue till the 23rd. If that's all right with the applicant.
Sounds good to us. Thank you.
All right.
And Mitch, Scott, thanks for being patient while we sort through this.
No,
These
this
are
is
probably questions that are very simple to you, but they're important.
Yes.
This has been a healthy discussion. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night all.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Yep. Have a good night, everyone.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Right. All right, so next up, we do have a few different topics that are on the agenda. Advertise for associate member item. What is that one about?
Oh, that was me. We used to have associate members and we no longer have associate members. And I was just thinking that it might be very valuable to get some folks on board who can learn about the process in the event that we ever need more voting members. And they can contribute to the conversation. They can participate in all discussions. They just don't vote.
Don't we have an associate member? Whatever happened to her?
I know nothing about her.
We've had.
Oh, yeah, that was before Rebecca's time. She never, she just kind of disappeared. She just kind of ghosted on us. She was interested in becoming an associate member, but she never actually did. And then she just stopped coming.
I think COVID made that difficult, definitely.
Yeah, we have had them in the past.
Yeah.
But there is technically nothing called an associate member. It's no different than a member from the public sitting in and listening.
Yeah, but I don't forward everyone in the public every piece of information that we receive. Do you know what I mean? So it is slightly different.
Right, but there's nothing, there's like no, what's the word? Official position, I guess, called an associate member. I don't believe.
There is, the town council likes to appoint them.
Yeah.
It's like an official act.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're required to. I think the commission can appoint their own, but.
I think other commissions have associate members.
We
They do.
have had them in the past.
Yes, I remember that.
And we've, I guess, voted them in ourselves.
No, the selectmen appointed them.
Associate,
No, I don't think Frank and Matt were. They want to now, but there's no reason you can't ask them to put in an ad for associate members and have them appoint them. There's no downside to having associate members.
No.
yeah, you need to build that bench strength and succession.
Exactly. It's a
Jimmy's
big learning
retiring.
curve.
After that statue of Jimmy gets built, he's probably going to retire.
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He'll be the next Robert E. Lee statue taken down.
Oh, no.
Jimmy on his horse.
Flat. It'll
Hey,
be.
Frank, weren't you an associate member at first?
Yeah, it was myself. I think there were three of us. I think
Matt,
Dave-
isn't it
And
Matt?
Dave
Yeah,
Peterson
we
was
were all-
too.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at your progression.
Yeah, you know what? It was during Shaw's, so very surprised that any of us lasted past
Now
that.
you're a full
Yeah.
salary member.
That's
Commissioner.
right. Triple salary, actually.
But I thought we gave you names to the selectmen and they approved it or something like that.
We were on the website as associate members.
Right, and you did give their names to the selectmen because they were appointed as full voting members.
Yeah, I think back then you needed your modem to dial up to look at the website.
Yes.
And by the way, would the presumption be that the associate member would have the inside track to become commissioner?
Not necessarily, because that isn't up to you to appoint them.
Right.
Good
Right.
point.
Right, that's true.
But I guess my point would be that if the town council were, and that might be a reason to have the town council appoint an associate, because I think that would make it more likely that associate member would feel that would be an inside track.
Agreed. Yeah.
It would be gaining great experience.
Well, I know, but I mean, it just seems like if we appoint one and then the town council says, "Oh, we didn't have anything to do with that. We're gonna appoint whoever we want," versus we appoint one, gave them that title, and they might feel that, I mean, because I do think that one expectation of an associate member would be that if they are conscientious, that they'll be appointed a commissioner.
But no guarantees. And so can we just say, to answer the question, yes, we'd like to advertise for the associate, because isn't that the question before us? Would we like to?
Yes.
Right, so.
Don't you think we should check with like,
All you have to do is send an email to Sherry and ask her to
right.
bring it
well, I
on their
think we just-
agenda.
Okay. I was
Yes.
just kind of asking.
Yes.
Steve,
But as we talk about it, I think it's important that that we ask the town council to
Right.
appoint a member for the exact
Right.
reason.
All you
that,
have to do is request that they appoint associate members.
okay,
It's
How
not a
many?
difficult process. 2, why not start with 2?
yeah, that's true. That's a good idea because if one fades away, there's no one.
Right,
So we have a backup associate member who can be a backup to a commissioner.
Well, two commissioners appointments, at least 2 expire every year, 2 to 3.
and you can have as many associates as you want. Some people don't ever want to be full voting members, but they could provide good insight. So
Right.
maybe you shouldn't limit yourself to 2.
Yeah,
It could be a more general, the commission is looking for associate members and see how many you get.
Well, good point. And see how many see what
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. Well, with the pay and the excitement level, I mean, it's
Well, the
bound.
Time is too much.
Exactly, and they don't have to leave their couch.
mm,
Okay, so I'll send an email to Sherry and get the ball rolling. How about that?
Thank you,
sounds
Judy.
good.
And how many are we going to request?
No, I think it should just be seeking associate members.
Members, yeah.
Okay, and with no limit.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go.
It'll be like a Tinder app.
We're not familiar with that, Judy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
Oh
that
my
like Facebook?
God. Ask your kids.
Does that mean we're going to get like a lot of people or something, or?
Forget it.
I don't think there's much chance of that.
Okay, that's Advertise for associate members. We have two other items. Review the tree policy.
What did you say?
Oh, no.
Review the tree policy is
Oh,
one of
review the
two
tree
remaining.
policy. Okay,
Well, I sent you a revised version.
I like what you put together, Judy. I like the edits that were made.
I agree, Judy.
Okay, so you're gonna vote to have that as the amended policy?
I'm not sure if everybody else is.
I agree. It was very well written.
Okay, so you're gonna take a vote?
So we had three people that liked it.
4, there's Ken.
Ken said he did.
It's all we need. It's all we need.
I didn't hear Ken. Okay, so, all right.
You
I'll-
gave the thumbs up.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve the tree policy as presented to us by Judy.
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Frank?
Let me go last. I'm just finishing up my.
Okay. Ken?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Savannah?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Yeah, I also vote yes. It's all on Frank.
I got
Frank,
it.
thumbs
We're
up.
good. I'm a yes. It looks good.
It's unanimous.
Thank you for spending the time to do that.
Wow,
very
Judy, unanimous. Your policy has passed with flying colors.
Right.
Can I just ask one question about the arborist always having to be to its being dead, compromised, disease?
No, if the homeowner says they think the tree is dead or diseased and Elaine or Rebecca go out and don't agree with that, I mean, they can go out and say, yeah, it looks like it's wrapped in a vine, it's half
I know.
dead.
Question I have is, it said will be required, may be required. Isn't it really may? I mean, in other words, if they agree that it's, yeah, that should come down.
Right, then they don't need an arborist. If they don't agree, then they will have to get an arborist.
I'm only saying that's what it says. If the homeowner contends that the tree is dead and diseased and therefore compromised, prior to approval, a letter from a licensed arborist will be required. That's all I'm getting at.
Right, if the homeowner contends that it's dead or diseased. So you want me to add in
Well, yeah. I mean,
if they disagree with it? Is that what you're saying? Okay, yep.
Agree. It's because I don't want to put Elaine in a situation where she has to disagree.
No, agreed. That's why I took out anything about safety.
Yeah,
Yep, I agree.
I would just change will to may because because
Will's a strong word.
my point was always that this thing happens to in general, it's worked very well. Elaine comes out and usually there's consensus, Elaine. That's been, and I don't want to make.
Nope, I'll change it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all in favor of that change?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jimmy? Frank? Ken?
Yes.
Savannah?
Yes.
Teresa? Peter?
Yes.
And okay, it will be will. No, instead of will, it's may.
Maybe.
Correct.
Does that dovetail right into the tree removal request? Is that too similar? Right.
Is shall the same as may, or is that stronger?
Where's that? Where are we looking at the purpose of the?
It should say may be required. It should say may, not shall.
May, yeah,
Shall is equal to will.
that's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Okay. We all set with that?
Yes.
So the last item that I see on the agenda is the review of the 25-foot no disturb policy / bylaw. Do we want to get into that now or at a later meeting?
I would love to do it at a later meeting.
I agree.
Can I just,
I agree.
no, that's fine. Can I just add in, if you're going to have a bylaw for the April town meeting, just start looking at it so it can maybe start getting discussed in October, because then you have to have a
Can you email to the test again? I'm sorry.
yes. But if you start talking about it in October, then you can set a public hearing date. You have to have a public hearing on it. And it has to be within 6 months of the town meeting. So if you start talking about it now, then you could have maybe the public hearing in January. So it just gives you time to mull things over
I agree.
before you have the public hearing.
Right, because
Put it on the agenda every week and we'll
Yeah, okay.
Can it be broken down into different sections that we can talk about every week?
It's not that.
There are only 2 sections.
Yeah, it's very.
Okay. I'm just hoping we can tackle it little by little instead of keep pushing it. But
Maybe
we just got to do it.
Well, it's just the setback and the
Yeah. Okay.
bond issue.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
So
get
that,
it
I mean, it can
to
be
the same.
separated into those 2 because it's a set, I mean, I don't think there's a lot to discuss.
Okay.
But
No, that's fine. I just want to get it done.
no.
Hey, can we
And I
talk-
know, especially with the lake project, the meetings run longer. That's why I figured put it on the agenda now so it can be chipped away at in the next couple of months so that we meet that 6-month deadline and get on the warrant in time. You know, because all of a sudden it'll be January and time passes by.
Can I just ask a quick question? And maybe we need to announce this at every meeting for 200, is to announce, and maybe you did because I was delayed getting on, that
That Ken's recusing. I
Yeah.
thought of that later too.
should do
Yeah,
that
it
every
should be.
meeting.
It should be. You're right.
So, sorry, just a, how's.
No, you're right.
At every hearing? I mean,
Yeah, I
every,
think so.
And can you explain to me why? I'm sorry, maybe I missed it.
He recused himself.
No, I know, but why is what I'm saying. It's because if you,
His firm's involved in the project. He's
Ah.
not involved with it. It has
Okay, I
nothing to
got-
do with it.
okay. I'm still learning.
We just want to put a red letter on it. every
No,
meeting.
makes sense.
There's a
Makes sense. No, makes sense. I just,
potential perceived conflicts,
I understood.
Yeah, I
He
did
just likes
announce
to
it.
stand out.
not an actual conflict.
I did announce it at the opening.
Yes, yes.
Okay. No, maybe I missed it. Sorry.
Money man behind the whole operation.
Yeah.
Mm.
There is one member of the public attending.
That's the tree removal
Okay,
on the bottom.
okay. Oh, oh. I didn't realize that was part of the agenda. You must be
Happy to
speed.
Happy to answer any questions you have. It's a large silver maple right behind the fence line on the property, and you know, it's very,
Which property?
I'm sorry, what?
Which property is this?
Oh, I'm sorry, 39 Bartley.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And neighbor's tree came down, and when the tree crews came out with a crane to lift it out, they suggested we might want to do something about that. We've talked to a couple of different tree removal companies, and a couple of them have suggested removing the tree altogether. Some have said, suggested pruning it back from over the house. So I'm not sure which one we're going to do, but wanted to at least get that before the commission and see if there's any issues with if we did decide to remove it.
Has anyone had a chance to take a look at it?
No.
Where's the tree located?
It's 39 Bartley. It's right behind the fence. It's not easy to get to because there's a stream channel that runs right through there.
So it's front yard or side yard or backyard?
Backyard, rear yard.
Okay, I'm just looking at the satellite image.
Yeah, it's kind of rear to
Left.
the west.
To the left?
corner.
So facing the
Yeah.
house, street, left, rear. Okay, got it. I see
Yep.
the tree.
And
I see.
does it make sense for Elaine to, now that she's back from vacation, to take a look at it?
Yes, I think that would be.
Okay, so if I do that, can I have your telephone number, please? I'll give you a call. Do you want to meet me out on the property?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd called in, and I guess maybe was it Rebecca I talked to as opposed to you, Elaine? I'm not sure which one of you it was.
I've been out, so it would have been Rebecca. Rebecca, did you have a chance to look at this?
No, I didn't. You were on vacation,
Okay.
and I believe I sent an
Yeah.
email requesting if someone could do
Okay.
that.
So I can come out tomorrow. Give me your telephone number.
617 9871136.
And can I have your name again?
Steve Magoon, right there on the screen. Yeah.
Elaine,
happy-
Elaine can't see that though.
Yeah. What?
I was just saying Elaine can't see your name, that's all.
Oh,
Oh, that's all right. I'm fine. I have it here. I have all I need. When will you be around tomorrow?
I would say later in the day is better for me.
Yeah, I'm gone by then. We close at
Oh.
12:30. Is there a rush
Uh,
on this? I can come next week. You know, I work
Yeah,
until 7 on Thursdays. So if you want to do it after work, next Thursday would be good because I'm working until late, by the time you get home from work.
Sure. I'll tell you what, why don't I give you a call? When would you be in the office? You'll be in the office tomorrow morning?
I'll be in the office tomorrow morning. We can arrange
Yeah.
something. Okay,
Yeah, why don't we do that? I'll give you a call and we can schedule a time maybe next week.
okay. All right, very good.
Perfect.
All right, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bring it in there. All right, anything else?
71
What about,
Kendrick.
oh, yes, right, Judy. 71.
Who's going first? I want to talk about this consultant a little bit more.
I'm sorry, can we just, have we resolved 71 Kendrick?
No,
No, I originally was gonna look at that, but then I realized it's a good friend's house, so I would recuse myself from that situation.
All right, do we have a telephone number or a name for this person?
Yes,
It's the Leaches, Mike and Joanne Leach.
I have it written down, Elaine.
Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow then, or
Sure.
next Thursday. Okay, thank you.
So I have a question about that. I know that the new policy mentions a member or the agents. I'm just trying to figure out how appropriate it would be for just a member to evaluate it. Like, do I have the skill set that an agent has to make the determinations? Even though I know there's a nice revised, tree
but the only thing
policy.
they're gonna look at is the tree dead or alive. They're not gonna determine if it's a safety hazard, if it's,
Okay,
so it's a simplified, it's something you could do.
okay.
I'm
I just-
confident in your ability, Ken.
I don't claim to be an agent or a wetland scientist or a tree person or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure it'd be okay.
You just play one on TV, Ken, do you?
Yeah, every Thursday, right? Armchair Thursday quarterback.
That would be
You guys-
helpful since they're busy, since there are so many filings. I think that would be helpful.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was appropriate or something that we typically do or that's all. Thank you.
It always was, yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Is there, Jimmy, you wanted to talk about consultant?
Yeah, I just feel like we shouldn't rely on Bill to do this. I think it's something that we need someone with their kind of qualifications to look at.
Right,
I think
we all agreed on that.
We agree.
Oh, I thought, I didn't know we had agreed on it, so.
Oh, no, we agree.
Yes.
Elaine and Rebecca are gonna talk about it a little bit more, about exactly what we need and how many and the types we need. And discussing it with Bill. That's what we said, Jim.
Okay.
We would get Bill's input on who he thinks would be the right person to hire. Or, yeah. But we wouldn't be asking Bill whether it's okay to hire someone. We would-
Right. Okay. That's it.
All right, anything else? Rebecca, Elaine, Judy?
Have a nice vacation while we skipped a week.
I did, yes, thank you very much.
Right. Me too, Elaine.
I got
Oh.
COVID.
You.
What?
I had a breakthrough COVID case.
Did you
So-
really?
Oh,
Oh, no.
right.
We have one in our house too.
How are you
Yeah.
feeling? Are you feeling okay now? Or?
Yeah, I'm over it now. I was at a wedding on the 6th. It was a Friday night. That Wednesday, I lost my taste and smell. Had some symptoms. I got low-grade fever, like 100, 104, for about 2 weeks. Had a cough. My cough has just kind of now gone away. But yeah, it was.
Any anyone else in your family get it, Frank?
My wife and my son.
Wow.
16 people at the wedding got it.
Wow. Did you
13 were
quarantine?
vaccinated. 13 were vaccinated.
Wow. Did you quarantine?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
In his basement forever.
Actually, when was the last meeting we had? I think I was just like at the beginning of it. I wasn't sure where it was going.
Did I see you at the train one of those days?
No, you wouldn't have. No, it was the week prior. It was the week prior.
We have video proof.
Are you sure?
What's that?
I'm only kidding.
I'm not a super spreader.
The planning board is starting the master plan process. That's on their agenda for next week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Erin got a grant, so she's been working on that. So that's good.
That is good.
Yeah. And the Conservation Commission got a shout out on the MAPC website for their tree policy.
Good for you, Judy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hey.
that was pretty good. Shout out to
Nice
Wakefield.
done.
But wait a minute, we just approved it.
No, the old tree policy. We're only one of 3 towns that they recognized.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we get anything?
It's everywhere.
I know.
No. Stoneham's copying our tree policy. Linfield,
Awesome. They're copying our old one?
Earth Blazing Trails.
Making progress.
Exactly. Baby steps.
Baby steps.
That's right.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mend, Frank, and I hope your family is too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was a little, I mean, it was never terrible, but it was enough to be annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it not being able to taste your food?
That was horrible.
Yeah,
What was actually even worse was when it came back, it didn't come back all at once.
yeah.
And I was hypersensitive to salt. So I thought it started to come back. So I went out, I bought a really nice ribeye steak, or I had it brought to me. I didn't go and get it.
No.
And I put the regular amount. This is being recorded right now. And so I put the regular amount of salt, pepper, and a couple of other things. Tasted it. I had to throw it away. It was too salty.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's good though. That's your body telling you you don't need the salt.
probably. Yeah,
Or the red meat.
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm doing
I think I had
contact tracing now, so I'll report you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Did you properly dispose of that bite that you took?
Good. Yes.
Oh,
As
God.
far as you know.
All right, do we have anything else?
No.
Judy, you
I
always
don't
have
think
something.
so. No, I have several things, but no, I'm all set.
Can I make the motion? Can I make the motion?
Hang on, Rebecca, Elaine?
No,
All right, Peter, you can make the motion.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second. I'm always so quick at seconds. I'm sorry.
Okay, Frank,
Yes.
Savannah,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Ken, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I have to vote to adjourn. Good night, everybody, and talk to you in
Night.
couple of
Night.
weeks.
Good night, guys.